Hello everybody and welcome to MGTOW News, a week in review by MGTOW Academy. It's Sunday, March 25th, 2018, and before we head back into the week, let's do a recap on the past week by covering some news. Let's start right off with the headlines, beginning with the shocking story of a mom killing her kids over divorce.
Mom who killed kids hours after husband filed for divorce is sentenced to 120 years in prison. A judge has sentenced a Central Indiana woman to 120 years in prison for fatally stabbing her young children hours after her husband filed for divorce. 31-year-old Brandy Worley learned her sentence Monday after she pleaded guilty in January to 2 counts of murder for killing her son, 7-year-old Tyler Worley, and her daughter, 3-year-old Charlie Worley, in November of 2016. Her husband was asleep downstairs at the time at the Darlington's home, about 40 miles northwest of Indianapolis. In this photo here on the left is Brandy Worley, the murderer, and on the right side you can see the 2 innocent children who were murdered. Worley gave no statement at the sentencing, and her attorney said that there was no explanation for what she did. Court documents have said that Worley told police that she killed the children because she didn't want her husband to take them. She was also treated for self-inflicted stab wounds to her neck. Worley called 911 moments after the attack. "I just stabbed myself and I killed my 2 children," Worley says calmly in the 911 audio previously obtained by WTTV. When the dispatcher asked Worley what caused her to do that, she replied, "My husband wanted a divorce and wanted to take my kids, and I don't want him to have my kids."
What I found the most astonishing of this story was the fact that this woman was worried about not being able to see her kids after the divorce. I'm even more surprised by the fact that she is not aware of the pussy pass in our legal systems and in our courts. She's worried about not being able to see the kids after the divorce. She's a woman. She most likely will. There is evidence of court bias against men in favor of the women in divorce cases involving the kids. What I don't even understand is why she would murder the kids if she couldn't see them. So if she couldn't see the kids, why would she murder them? That's the one thing I do not understand. So guys, please do leave your thoughts on this story in the comment section below. A shocking story indeed. Carrying on into the headlines, Jessica Chastain urges men to start their own #MeToo and Time's Up movements.
Jessica Chastain urges men to start their own #MeToo and Time's Up movements. Jessica Chastain thinks men around the world should get inspired by their female counterparts and start their own #MeToo and Time's Up movements. The 40-year-old actress is a supporter of both campaigns, which were launched for women to share their stories of sexual abuse and harassment in the wake of the revelations that were made public in 2017 about movie producer Harvey Weinstein's conduct towards women throughout his Hollywood career. Although it is the conduct of some guys which has been put under the microscope by #MeToo and Time's Up, she recognizes that men also suffer a lot, and she wants them to follow the lead of their female peers and to do something that will, tackle the high suicide rate among men. Speaking to the German issue of GQ magazine, she said, "I think men also suffer a lot. Because of the circumstances we live in worldwide, the suicide rate among men is much higher than that of women. No one talks about that. That's ultimately linked to the idea of our idea of the sexes, which only allows a strong man, but none that shows his feelings. Of course, a man can be ambitious or whatever he wants to be, but he needs to be able to handle his own feelings competently. That's something I long for, and it's the kind of character I encounter in my life again and again. Men who express their feelings openly." Chastain wants gender stereotyping to stop. Rather than define certain characteristics as male or female, she wants people to recognize traits as human. The Molly's Game star explained, "I believe we should stop labeling certain traits as male or female. In the past, we perceived female figures as what the men around them made them to be. Women looking for love. women looking for a man. But exactly this layout, women looking, men finding, is what we've put up with for way too long. It's a media problem.
One of the primary goals here at MGTOW News is to bring men together so that we can recap on the past week's events. So we took to Twitter to ask for you guys' opinions on Jessica Chastain's position. So MGTOW News put out a poll asking if you agree or disagree with Jessica. Here are the results. So, as of March 25th, 2018, everybody who took the survey agreed with Jessica. In addition to our poll results, MGTOW News also received some feedback on Twitter. Let's go ahead and start off with Mr. Someone at the top. Mr. Someone said, but it's too futile or pointless. It'd be pointless because Western society is far too gynocentric. Chris Long added in that he doesn't agree with her for the fact that she supports #MeToo, which is essentially a witch hunt. Yes, men are victims too. We already know that. Additionally, #MeToo has created many more male victims of fraud. If you wish to participate in the polls that you just saw and give your feedback, you can follow MGTOW News on Twitter at all caps MGTOW News. We're wrapping up the headlines with one more final story, and that story poses a question. Are men and boys being set up for failure?
Are boys and men being set up for failure? It's no longer a man's world, according to Tucker Carlson, and he may be onto something big here. The Fox News anchor recently launched Men in America, a series which looks at the changing gender dynamics. In the inaugural episode, Carlson unleashed a torrent of statistics of suicides, substance abuse, incarceration, marriages, the number of adult males living with their parents, and biological changes, all of which support the theory that men are failing in mind, body, and spirit. Don't turn the page just yet. As Carlson pointed out, the seriousness of the problem lies in our unwillingness to accept that there is one. As the mother of 2 young men, almost everything he said resonated with me. Over the years, I have often compared their initiative, or lack of it, to girls of a similar age. The girls certainly seem to bring their A game to every opportunity, while the boys, mine at least, tend to be more laid back and willing to step aside. While I initially attributed this to their laziness and immaturity, Carlson got me thinking in a whole different direction. Is the empowerment of women causing us to push our boys off to the side? Jordan Peterson, a clinical psychologist, cultural critic, and professor at the University of Toronto, is of the opinion that schooling could be partly responsible for this new submissiveness in men. He says that the lack of competition in schools is detrimental to the male spirit, and I agree. I have witnessed the slow demise of the fighting spirit in my firstborn son after we moved from India to the West. From kindergarten to grade 2 in the United States, his teachers promoted a collaborative rather than competitive attitude. He was discouraged from taking pride in his academic achievements in order to prevent less accomplished classmates from feeling bad. In fact, he was told to never talk about it and to use his talents to help others instead. We never understood why both could not coexist. After all, each has its place and value. On the baseball and soccer fields, his coaches constantly reinforced the message that winning or losing didn't count. It was all about having fun. Another blow to competition. Many of us parents felt it prevented boys from doing their best. Compare these messages to the ones that we are trying to send to little girls and young women. Yeah, it's no surprise that they're more than willing to fight for what they want compared to our boys. Carlson also makes a reference to video game addiction among boys as being detrimental to their development. And I'm with him on this one too. Social skills, interpersonal relations, and mental health suffer because of it. A study by the Center for Addiction and Mental Health, or the CAMH, in Toronto revealed that more than 1 in 3 students in grades 7 to 12 reported experiencing high levels of psychological distress in 2015. That was up from 9% in 2007 when the video gaming problem was first monitored. CAMH also noted that the problem was more prevalent among boys, with 20% reporting symptoms compared with the 5% of girls. You might compare this to the girls' usage and dependence on social media, but from what I've seen, it's less harmful than living in the virtual world of video games. Peterson believes that indoctrination in schools of gender equality and the association of masculinity with aggressiveness and violence has also caused boys to take a big step back. Yes, it is troubling that feminism has become synonymous with male bashing, and the hashtag MeToo movement hasn't helped. It shames all men. While all the shootings in America cause us to focus on gun control, it's worth noting that troubled young men are at the center of the problem. Perceived physical, mental, and social deficiencies are a leading cause of male depression and isolation and the consequent aggressive or suicidal acts. The fallout of teaching girls that they are more than equal seems to be our boys are feeling inadequate and less confident of their gender inabilities. The rising aggressiveness in women and the mildness in men has caused a social imbalance of sorts. An equal society should not favor any gender, race, or creed. While there is good reason why women are being propelled forward, one must spare some thought for how overdoing it could impact the future generations of men, lest there comes a time when boys feel inferior to their female siblings, classmates, and co-workers. What will we do then? Reverse the cycle again? The empowerment of women does not have to mean downgrading men. After all, equality is all about giving each one its due and coexisting. It's time to be sensitive and fair to both men and women.
To start off the men's rights section of MGTOW News is covering a story about a co-ed firefighter camp.
Mayor shuns demand of men's rights group to change firefighter camp name. Harry Crouch, president of the San Diego-based National Coalition for Men, wrote a letter demanding change in Girls Empowerment Camp name and marketing. San Diego officials are shutting a request by the National Coalition for Men to scrap Girls Empowerment Camp as the name of a co-ed firefighting camp for teens. Keep in mind that it's a co-ed camp, meaning that both boys and girls can join the camp. Anyways, on Friday, the San Diego-based group led by Harry Crouch sent a letter to various officials insisting that it be changed to include boys and girls. Many boys who would love to attend will not register for a girls' empowerment camp. Would they? Crouch said in the letter. Even if allowed, they are an unwelcome afterthought. The title more than implies boys are not as important or valued as girls, and that is true in our society. Continuing on, moreover, as are the written materials and presentations tailored specifically for females, and worse, will the instructors favor girls? On Monday, Mayor Calvin Faulconer spokesman Greg Block said via email, "The camp is moving forward. We will have nothing more to add than what we said in our press release last week." Faulconer on Tuesday reinstated the camp for April and May after an earlier letter by civil rights lawyer Alfred Rava, formerly associated with Crouch's group, led to the March 3 through 4th event being canceled. But seeing that the camp was still being marketed as Girls Empowerment Camp, Crouch wrote to complain. The text of the announcement is replete with references to girls, women, and female, with only a passing reference to boys, Crouch wrote. He gave the city 10 days to respond, but didn't get an answer. Crouch learned of the city's rejection via email from the Times of San Diego. Now that the city has gone on record as sticking with its plan, what does Crouch think? "It's absurd," he said in a phone interview. "It's unbelievable to me. Girls Empowerment Camp. What the hell is that? It's an indoctrination course for a women's study program." Asked if he would take the city to court, the 68-year-old downtown resident at first suggested he wouldn't. "We have more important and bigger fish to fry," he said. "The selective service system is a little bit larger than their girls' firefighter camp. That case challenging the constitutionality of the male-only draft registration requirement is still in Houston federal court." But, later Crouch said, "we're going to keep our options open. We have 2 years to file suit, but there are other things on our plate right now. Crouch said that when he was assistant ombudsman in the 1980s for the municipality of Anchorage, standards were lowered for female firefighter candidates in terms of weight they had to carry up a ladder. And even though they failed each and every time, those women were hired and men who successfully passed the test were not hired, he said. The rationale for the dual standards? The Alaskan city didn't want to lose federal Title IX money, Crouch said. If you read the information about STEM and the reasons why women don't get into occupations like firefighting more frequently, it's because they don't want to, Crouch said. That's okay, but there's nothing to prevent them from becoming firefighters. Nothing. Not a thing.
To finish off the men's rights section of MGTOW News is covering a story of Egyptian men's rights activists requesting to start a council that will represent men, only for others to not take it seriously and to say that men are privileged and women are victims.
Egyptian men's rights activist sees oppression in female empowerment. In a backlash against the women's movement in Egypt, one attorney is demanding the formation of a national council for men. An Egyptian lawyer has called for the establishment of a national council to advocate for men's rights. On the TV program Hana al-Kahira on February 14th, attorney Sam Hajjaj said, "The National Council will aim to support men harmed by the personal status laws issued during the last 20 years and passed with the support of the National Council for Women." He explained, "The personal status laws proved to be biased towards women, especially Law Number 1 of 2000, known as the Kula Law, permitting no-fault divorce, that completely destroyed Egyptian families, with the divorce case occurring every 4 minutes. Egyptian divorced women get custody of their children until they turn 15, while fathers get limited visitation rights. Article 20 of the Kula Law specifies that if two spouses do not mutually agree on divorce, the wife files a claim requesting Kula, which waives all of her lawful financial rights. The provision has made it legally much easier for Egyptian women to get divorced, though they still risk losing everything." On February 10th, on Al-Ashira Masan, or 10 p.m. on Egyptian's Dream 2 channel, Hajjaj had accused the National Council for Women of harming men's rights through its positions and laws it has drafted and endorsed since its establishment. "We have not seen a similar council for men's affairs," he said. "There will be no National Council for Men," NCW Director Maya Morsi responded during the show in a telephone interview. The NCW was established by a presidential decree in 2000 and operates under the President's office. It proposes general policies on women's affairs to economically empower women, organize comprehensive development programs, and submit proposals and observations to the administration. Mana Izzat, the director of the Women in Work program at the New Women Foundation, sees the call for a council for men as a response to women's issues having become so central to the public discourse. Some argue that men also have their rights trampled upon, and this is not true, she told Al Monitor. Gender-based violence exists. Women suffer this violence in addition to other public issues affecting both men and women. For example, both men and women complain of a lack of public rights, such as the need for a minimum wage, but women only face a gender-based wage disparity in favor of men in many jobs. As that added, Egyptian women face a patriarchal culture and are barred from certain public positions, such as judicial posts. This has resulted in an unemployment rate among women of 24% compared to only 8% among men. The NCW and Women's Association are working to correct this injustice. For example, qualified candidate Omnia Garala applied for a judicial position at Egypt's State Council. Though Article 11 of the 2014 Constitution guarantees equality between men and women, her application was not accepted for consideration. On November 11, 2017, the Board of Commissioners of the Second Chamber of the Supreme Administrative Court refused to hear a case brought for the appointment of women judges to the council. the chairperson of the Women's Center for Guidance and Legal Awareness, Reda al-Dabuki, said Egyptian society is fundamentally male-dominated, one, and discrimination always works in favor of men, which is not true. Calling for a national council for men cannot be serious, especially since women are still deprived of numerous rights, he told Al Monitor. The Penal Code also discriminates against women in specific crimes concerning adultery and honor. Under the law, a man is only accused of adultery if his alleged act is committed within the marital home, while a woman can be accused of adultery regardless of the place. Also, in a phone interview on Hana al-Qahira, Alaa Abed, the head of the Egyptian Parliament's Human Rights Committee, said, "Women and men are two sides of a single coin," and stressed that women make up a crucial pillar of society. Abed asked, "Is the man oppressed or subject to injustice? Are we a matriarchal society or a patriarchal society?" He said that the Egyptian street will not support a council, adding, "The idea is not constitutionally enforceable." Article 214 of the Constitution stipulates, "The law provides for independent national councils, including the National Council for Human Rights, the National Council for Women, the National Council for Childhood and Motherhood, and the National Council for Persons with Disabilities." The law sets out the structures, mandates, and guarantees the independence and neutrality of their members. The Constitution did not provide for the establishment of a similar council for men. There are no statistics available from any government agencies or independent organizations on violation of men's rights in Egyptian society. Meanwhile, women in Egypt, accounting for about 49% of the population, clearly face difficulties that men do not. The Women's Empowerment Strategy 2030, drafted by the NCW and issued in March of 2017, noted that in 2016, women made up of 24.2% of the workforce. In 2015, the unemployment rate among women was just 24%, and in 2016, the percentage of women in administrative positions was just 6%. In 2014, 4.1% of Egyptian women have been subject to sexual violence from their husbands, and 25.2% have suffered physical violence at the hand of their husbands. Almost 1 in 5 women aged 20 to 29 were married before the age of 18.
Oh man, I don't even know where to start. Okay. So, first of all, basically the article, it talked about how men's rights are basically being ignored in Egypt because apparently men are the privileged ones and women are the ones who are suffering. I want to make something clear. Okay? I don't want anybody to just ignore women's rights. Okay? Women's rights are important. I know you don't hear that on MGTOW channels, but it's true. Okay? They deserve rights. Just as men deserve rights, they deserve rights. Okay, I can't just come on here saying, men are suffering, we should end all rights for women. No. That is like being the male version of a feminist. I'm not here for that. I want people to realize that, well, look, yes, women do face problems, but their problems are overrated. They're represented way too much in the media, and people are always focused on the whole women's rights thing. Okay, I don't understand how men are privileged if we lead work-related deaths, if we lead suicide rates and all that. Okay, I don't know how we become privileged. I don't know how men are privileged if there is evidence of court bias against men in our legal system and all that. I don't understand how we're the privileged ones. And that's what is happening in Egypt. Okay? It's as if the women are always the victims and men are the privileged ones. Okay? Like how they talked about how men dominated how there are more men in the workforce than women. Well, geez, maybe some women just don't want to work. Okay? The pay gap Well, I mean, that's easily debunkable. Men, on average, the average man compared to the average woman, the average man's going to work longer hours. He's willing to work overtime. He's less likely to take holidays off. And even though a woman will be more likely to have a college degree, that doesn't matter. What matters is how much work you put out. Okay? There is no pay gap. I assure you, there is no pay gap. They're just looking, feminists and all that. They look at the statistics and they're like, oh, there's a difference. There's clearly a pay gap. And then other programs come in and support it. That's just the continuous cycle that goes on and on. Women are the victims and men are the oppressors. Just that same common narrative. Anyways, I took a look at the comment section. I'm going to cover it for just a bit. You guys can cover it yourselves as well. I'll link this article in the video description so you guys can take a look at the comments yourself, read the article yourself again, and do all that. But here's the comments for this article.
Alright, so following up on the article, we're going to go over some comments on the same article. We'll get started with the first one by MGTOW Man. MGTOW Man wrote, "This article proves that MRAs have valid points, starting with the lack of stats on various shortcomings directed at men too. If the fixers were serious about real equality, they would of course be happily keeping stats on men's issues. How else can officials make reasonable comparisons unless they have real comparisons? True equality is the nemesis of feminism. True equality has never been a feminist intention." Junkie replied to MGTOW Man and said, "This is what they did in Canada, also to the point that only feminists now control what stats are released to the public. What stats are released to the public, and they have literally stopped tracking the number of divorces in Canada at all to save money," they say. And then they keep, there's just a whole thread here, basically, about the stats, not being properly portrayed for men. Like over here, Thesis said, I would bet that they don't have the stats available to the public on fathers' rights issues. Male suicide, definitely something, a big issue. Male death stats in the workplace, something men really lead. I'm confident that it's over 90% of workplace deaths being male. Disparity in sentencing for crimes, absolutely. Also known as the pussy pass, where women get a slap on the wrist and men get a much harsher punishment for the exact same crime under the exact same circumstances as a woman. See. I mean, all this stuff right here, it's just saying, it's covering the narrative that men are underrepresented when it comes to problems like this. It just, like, people aren't that stupid, all right? And everybody's here ignoring the male problems. And I'm not going to lie, women do have problems, but we can't just leave out the problems that men face. Women have problems, but men do too.
Man, this story has certainly shown me a lot about how society sees men, how they value our problems and our issues compared to women. Also, please do leave your thoughts on this in the comments below. MGTOW News is starting off the men's health section with a story that will certainly go into the records. This is groundbreaking, all right? A birth control pill is being developed for men. Researchers say birth control pill for men may soon be a reality. Researchers say a new birth control pill for men appears to be safe, effective, and may soon become a reality. It's called dimethandrolone undecanoate, or DMAU, and will be taken daily just like the female pill. The study's senior investigator, Stephanie Page, MD, PhD, professor of medicine at the University of Washington, is calling it a major step forward in the development of a once-daily male pill. What about side effects? Despite having low levels of circulating testosterone, very few subjects reported symptoms consistent with testosterone deficiency or excess, Page said. Researchers say longer-term studies are currently underway to confirm that the pill can block sperm production so a man cannot get his partner pregnant. The study included 100 healthy men ages 18 to 50 years old and took place at the University of Washington Medical Center and at Harvard UCLA Medical Center in Torrance, California. DMAU is being developed by the National Institutes of Health, Eunice Kennedy Shriver National Institute of Child Health, and Human Development, which funded this study. You guys can read this link right here. It'll be linked in the description box below so you guys can take a look at it. And it's got a pretty decent sum of information about this supposed pill.
DMAU is an orally ingested pill taken once a day. According to Stephanie Page, many men say they would prefer a daily pill as a reversible contraceptive instead of long-acting injections or topical gels. DMAU must be taken with food in order to be effective. All test groups taking DMAU experienced mild weight gain and mild decreases in HDL or good cholesterol. Alright, men, let's get real here. One of the main things that men going their own way notice is that women have unfair advantages over men, and a lot of unfair advantages over men. That's why we go our own way. And stuff in the birth control area, so to speak, women have a clear advantage in that area. Now, a birth control pill, it's revolutionary, okay? But again, a lot of men are starting to go monk mode now. They're just like going they're starting to go to no sex at all. So this thing could have no effect on MGTOW men at all, or it could be revolutionary. Please do share your thoughts on this in the comments below. MGTOW News is going to end with a story. It's actually pretty cool. It's about this study saying that thousands of lives can be saved if men who are suspected of prostate cancer are immediately given an MRI. Check it out.
An MRI for all men suspected of prostate cancer could save thousands of lives, according to a new study. Giving all men with suspected prostate cancer an immediate MRI scan would save thousands of lives a year, the results of a new study suggest. A trial by British scientists found the comprehensive scan was 12% more likely to detect dangerous tumors than the traditional biopsy, and that number of men who undergo a biopsy needlessly could be reduced by 28%. Every year, more than 120,000 men in the UK undergo a biopsy, which involves inserting an ultrasound probe into the affected area to take a sample of cells from the prostate that might contain cancer. The team at the University College London believe that with the new strategy, more than a quarter of the 1 million men who currently undergo a biopsy across Europe every year could safely avoid it. The trial, presented at the European Association of Urology Congress in Copenhagen with publication in the New England Journal College of Medicine, saw researchers from 23 acres randomly allocate 500 men with suspected prostate cancer to be examined either with a standard biopsy or with an initial MRI scan, followed by a targeted biopsy if the MRI showed an abnormality. And let's go ahead and review some facts about prostate cancer. So 47,300 men in the UK were diagnosed with prostate cancer in 2015. It's the most common cancer against men. 1 in 8 men will be diagnosed with prostate cancer in their lifetime. The likelihood is double for black men, with 1 in 4 being affected by the disease. Men whose fathers or brothers have had prostate cancer are more than twice as likely to develop the disease, and 65 through 69 is the average age at which men are diagnosed. 84% of men survive 10 or more years following a prostate cancer diagnosis. 11,287 men in the UK died from prostate cancer in 2014, and that's equivalent to about 1 death per hour. 330,000 men are living with or after the disease in the UK. The precision trial found that 71 of the 252 men, which is 28%, in the MRI arm of the study avoided the need for a subsequent biopsy. Of those who needed a biopsy, the researchers detected clinically significant cancer in 95 of the 252 men, which is 38%, compared to the 64 to 248 men, which is 26%, that received the biopsy. The first author of the study, Dr. Veer Kasvisvanathan from the UCL Division of Surgery and Interventional Science, said, "In men who need to have investigation for prostate cancer for the first time, precision shows that using an MRI to identify suspected cancer in the prostate and performing a prostate biopsy targeted to the MRI information leads to more cancers being diagnosed than the standard way that we have been performing prostate biopsies for the last 25 years.
Well, men, that's it for this week's edition of MGTOW News. If you like what you see, then be sure to subscribe. And also, please share your thoughts on the articles that I covered today. That is one of the main goals of MGTOW News, is to get interaction of men on the past week's events so we can be more productive. That is one of the primary goals of MGTOW News. I hope you guys like what I'm doing. I know these are pretty darn long, but it's a lot more easier for me personally. You know, it works out with my schedule a lot better. I can just edit small bits of MGTOW News every night, and I'll have a great finished product by Saturday evening, and it'll be ready to upload. It's a lot easier for me. I think it's great. So anyways, guys, be sure to follow me on Twitter at MGTOW News. And as you've seen in our coverage, it's a pretty dangerous world out there. So remember to keep taking your daily doses of red pills and to stay safe. This is MGTOW Academy signing off.